tbate fam, I am so sorry for the late release. If you haven't already heard, I was in a car accident a few weeks ago, so pretty much everything got thrown off task. I've had so many videos and shorts and everything planned that I just had to sit back because a lot of days I have to rest, and I do maintain 2 channels. So without talking and delaying y'all too much, let's get into it, okay? Because we got 4 chapters to cover. So chapter 194, the Kingdom of Derv. So we go to Gray's side, where we get to see that Nico, Gray, and Cecilia got into the academy. Yeah, that'll be more important in the later chapters. We go to Arthur. So Arthur, after the retainer fight, goes to go see where the Alacran army has come from, okay? So I personally think he shouldn't because he's such in a weak state, but he does it anyway. Him and Sylvie find the hideout where they infiltrate using Mirage Step, and when he gets into there, he sees the dwarves once again have betrayed the coffin. I honestly am tired of the dwarves, okay? They were pretty annoying when, Arthur got locked up so many chapters ago. King Dwarf and Queen Dwarf, who got annihilated. Super annoying, super entitled. But it seems like this is like the dwarves' nature. So I can't wait to see what happens to them, because I know we do know later in the chapters that Arthur does talk about it again. But they are by far right now like the most annoying, and probably like they betray everybody. Like I guess like the true like racism shown before with the dwarves in the series earlier on, it's pretty like it's rampant. Like they pretty much seem like they hate the like regular humans and elves, bro. Like I really think that's their nature. Like they truly do. Like otherwise why keep doing this, right? But I can't wait to see what that's gonna bring. So Arthur's able to discover like this is how they got to the continent so fast, because they're working with the Alacrans, and they have a warp gate. Coming through the warp gate as Arthur is about to leave is the Scythe. And oh my god, she's the baddie, okay? She is beautiful. Her design, fire. You see, I had to make it a thumbnail, right? Because she's beautiful, I have to say. Whether she's a op, but she's a beautiful op, all right? So crossing into 195, I'm not surprised that she noticed Arthur, but I am a little surprised that she didn't act. So I don't know, what do you guys, I know the guys who read a light novel, obviously you know why and what the reason was behind this, but for those like myself, what do you guys think? Is there a reason she did that? Did she want to like kind of savor her food to finish it later type of thing? Or, maybe she thought he was just a bug on the wall, because the way Arthur describes himself, he thinks he's a bug looking into a storm, right? That's kind of what he said. So he gets up out of there. The scene switches to Ellie, who seems to be waiting for Arthur. He's supposed to be coming back from the war. And we had a funner interaction between Ellie and Captain Otter and Boo. Ellie and Boo, just gotta love them. They're really hilarious together. Captain Otter, I like his kind of type. He's the, he seemed like a kind of a dick before, but he's kind of like the guy who's kind of like, straightforward. He reminds me like of a Severus Snape type of guy, where he's kind of like, he dislikes Arthur, and he dislikes that he has so much power, obviously, because probably he's so young, but, he's kind of the same character wherever he is. Like his disdain isn't just for Arthur, that's just his nature, right? So I can respect somebody whose nature is just stuck that way, as a character, I mean. Now, Arthur returns, and he just went unconscious, which is what I expected. Mans was in a real detriment state. So I feel bad for Ellie. She's obviously super worried. Sylvie having to yell at the healers was pretty shocking, but also pretty dope, because she knows exactly what she's talking about and telling them what to prioritize. So I did enjoy that interaction, especially since Ellie didn't even know she could speak. So fast forward, Arthur's in the bed, and he wakes up, and they tell him his condition. His legs are cooked. Okay, which I would probably have to go back and look at the fight. I don't remember what happened to Arthur's legs. I don't remember anything significant happening to them, but Arthur's legs are cooked, bro. Like, holy, like they have to basically slash him back up to realign them, and he has to go through surgery, in which he seems to agree. And also he gets mad at Sylvie for not kind of telling Varian about the fight and what happened, but she was right to stay with him. Like, bro, like you're your pop, like, and the dwarves are traitors. Like we gotta watch our back here. So I respect Sylvie's decision here, but Arthur being this messed up is kind of crazy just from a retainer fight. So after seeing the Scythe, I'm kind of really getting the scale of things. As far as I can tell right now, lances do not match scythes. I know that like we haven't seen all the lances, and like Arthur isn't the strongest, but holy. So we cross into 196 where we get to Gray's side again. So this is this is a lot more deeper into Gray's side. So we go on the Gray's side, which is a lot more intricate and deep. So they're going Nico, Cecilia, and Gray. Nico, Cecilia, and Gray are going shopping for their clothes and books and stuff for their schooling. And as time goes by, as they seem to be heading back, it gets a little spooky, and Gray notices that the area is a lot more clear than it normally is. Apparently, an assassination attempt was made on Cecilia here, which is kind of crazy. Like, I knew she was a little bit weird, and she seems like the kind of type that would have something like this happen, but I don't know if I expected it, but I'm not necessarily surprised either. So, Gray is able to kind of save her because he noticed this was happening. But they, kind of run away, and, Cecilia falls on the ground, and, she's basically saying abandoning her, and, it seems like Nico and Gray are going to abandon her, but I don't think any of us thought that they were really going to abandon her. Like, I didn't. I thought it was obvious a plan because they're a bunch of kids. Like, they act exactly like how a group of kids would, right? So they fight back, and Nico and Gray are kind of tussling with the main guy. Gray ends up, he tells Gray that he has potential because, he kind of got the better of him a little bit, but not necessarily. As a grown man, you ain't gonna win. Gray does outsmart him by getting the dart that they shot and putting it in his arm, pacifying him a little bit, and they're able to escape. However, the assassin does mention they made sure that they have nowhere else to go to. I am sad to see that their orphanage burned up. I'm not necessarily sure if any of the kids died. I didn't necessarily remember looking to see if there were any kids in the crowd, but it looked like there were a bunch of people for sure. The headmaster definitely passed away, and it's really sad because in most stories it's hard to find an orphanage where the headmaster is actually a good person who cares. Most of the times you see orphanages as really dark and dim places where kids don't really necessarily make it, especially in real life scenarios. But this is a really good one, and she's really proud of them for making the academy. So I really felt that, in this chapter. And we basically see Arthur waking up crying where Tess is there. Tess and Arthur, we haven't seen them have an interaction in a while, so this is interesting leading into 197. So Tess and Arthur haven't had an interaction since they had that argument over Gotsky's death, which was a very intense argument. So they haven't seen each other in a while. So there's a lot of love here, a lot of flirtation. Tess doesn't even want to really argue with Arthur because he's more interested in what she's been doing while the war has started, and is happy to see that she kind of looked like she got moved up. But Arthur's in the back condition, but we know Arthur's nature. He's care about everybody else first, that person, right? Funny scene at the door, we get to see Virion, Ellie, and Aldrin kind of peeking on Arthur and Tess, because we know that they're the lovely couple, right? And we get to see Ellie, basically interacting with Arthur, showing them love, because she's never left his side, which we already knew from the previous chapter. But it's good to see that they could have that moment together, because Ellie was really worried, right? Now the most important thing out of this whole thing is Virion's conversation with Arthur, because Arthur asks who are the lances under, which lances are under the dwarves, which we can assume that Arthur told Virion about not only Lady Scythe, but a little bit about the retainer and how the dwarves are working and everything. So I'm glad that Arthur got that stuff off himself. I am very interested to see what's going to happen next, because we do know at the end of the chapter there's a bit of a party, which I have a problem with. But I wonder how they execute the dwarves at this point, right? Not necessarily kill them, execute. I mean how they execute approaching them, stopping their betrayal. What's the action plan, right? So the chapter continues with Arthur is hanging out with Ellie, who is got a bow and arrow, and she's pretty talented with it. And we get a little bit of character development from Ellie, which I wasn't really expecting at this point, where she tells Arthur that she used to hate him because he's the popular guy, right? We've seen this kind of before, where Arthur's the popular guy, everybody loves him and respects him, and it makes things difficult for Ellie because it's just well, I'm my own person. I'm not just Arthur's kid sister. This is a theme that you see in a lot of different stories. But I didn't expect that from Ellie. I thought she kind of just loved Arthur. But I'm also cool and glad to know that she realized that she was in the wrong, and that's what makes her character really really good versus other ones who it takes time for them to learn these things. Like another similar story is like Mushoku Tensei, when Rudius, when his sisters come to live with him, his sisters go in the academy, and she like is struggling because she has to live up to Rudius's name, but she doesn't really learn anything from it until like later on in like a couple episodes where her and Rudy start to develop a relationship. So it's kind of similar in that nature, but Ellie ends up being really really talented because she can mold, I guess, mana and into the arrows and kind of shoot it. I'm a little weird about it because I have a little sister myself, and my little sister was skilled at fighting. I would have a little bit of an issue with it because I would want her away from the fight. I wouldn't want her to necessarily have abilities that make her good in a fight, because that's going to push her to be a part of a fight. But that's kind of what's happening here. So you can be proud of her. I get it, but I know me, I wouldn't necessarily encourage it. And we get to learn that they're having a celebration because a retainer was defeated, which I guess is a massive feat, but we're in the middle of a war. Like, why are we celebrating this? Like, that's my problem with it. Like, I get it. This is an important moment to, like, maybe for morale, and like Arthur should get like some praise for it, but I don't think it warrants a whole party. Like, I have a bit of an issue with this, but I guess some interesting things will happen here. I wonder if they'll announce that the dwarves are traitors or something, but I imagine some drama is going to happen here. So other than that, I really enjoy these chapters. If I had to rate them all, 194 will be a 7, 195 will kind of be a 6.5, 196 would probably be a bit of a 5.5, because I'm still finding it a little bit hard for me to really love the Gray story, so being that chapter was most of that, I would probably give it like a 5, 5.5, probably a 5. And then this last one, I would probably give it about a 6. Decent chapters, nothing too spectacular. But I did, like the first original one where Arthur is able to discover like the dwarves, and we get to see Lady Scythe. So I'll be back to you guys in another 2 weeks. If something does change, I'll let you guys know, because I am doing like therapy 3 times a week, and I'm pretty busy with that, and also my other content. But yeah, so thank you guys for having patience with me, and I'll see you soon.